Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Langley Event Center. Just 7 days ago, I was here with Howard Samura, Vancouver Province. We were announcing the 1A and 2A teams for the BC High School Boys Basketball Championships, and we're back here today, and we're looking at the 3A and 4A boys. Got some new teams in it this year.
We do. It's a neat place, a neat meeting place. 3A is, Chris, and good to be with you again. It's with the changes that have happened this year in BC Boys High School basketball. It's neat to see the kind of confluence of teams that has come together at this tier, and I think we're going to have some neat rivalries developing, and we're going to get our first chance to see them all together on the floor at the LEC.
More teams this year at the provincial championships. We've gone from a 3A of 20 and kind of divvied it up, 2 16-team tournaments. When we look at the 3A and 4A, probably the newest, the one that looks the most different, probably the 3A?
I think the 3A is, and we were talking off air before we came on, that people are saying, hey, if there is a new tier within this group, which one is it? People say 3A is the new tier. It's where the 4A teams have dropped down, the 2A teams have come up, and they've made a neat home for themselves here.
And we're going to begin to look at that draw, and we do. We have some teams that have been really successful at the 2A level in the past, really successful at the old 3A level, and they're meeting in the middle here for this new 3A championship. So let's go to the draw. Our first teams in the 3A tournament are number 1 seed, Abbotsford, and they go up against North Peace.
Abbotsford Panthers, hey, number 1 ranked Fraser Valley champions. Really neat to see that team, making its way to the provincials as a number 1 seed in the tournament. And there's so much history behind Abbotsford basketball. People remember in 1983, names like Chico Duncan, Larry Clarkson, Dave Lashai. This is a team that won it all in 1983, and they've come back strong. Jamie Conrad yesterday, the Fraser Valley AAA MVP as Abbotsford beats Fleetwood Park from Surrey in the championship final. So this team has done it all. They played the best teams. They go in number 1. I think, with that number 1 seeding, got to say they're the favorites heading into this tournament.
As you said, though, a ton of history, but haven't been here in a while.
Yeah, 1998. They won the Fraser Valley Championship that year and then went to the BCs that year. And as one of Prentice Lenz, the head coach, said to me yesterday, he let his kids know about that. One of his kids put his hand up and say, hey, 1998, that's the year I was born. So, yeah, really neat thing.
I think they lost to a very tough McRoberts team in that 98 year is what happened.
We had to get that in there, yeah.
All right, looking at the rest of that quadrant there, we have Wellington against McNair. In sort of probably a 8-9 seeds looking Wellington McNair. What do you know?
Well, I know that this McNair team has one of the most exciting players in the province. His name is Royce Sargent, a point guard, the MVP of the Richmond playoffs. This kid averaged 27 points a game this year. And when the coaches say a guy's a one-man press break, I think you get a picture in your head as the kind of handle this kid has and his exciting ability on the floor. So that's a guy we're really looking forward to seeing play here. And of course, McNair has some history. Paul Eberhardt, the great coach, formerly guiding this McNair team to some success in the past.
Sure, McNair, Final Four appearance way back with Josh Masters in the 1990s. But again, a team that hasn't been here in a while. 2000, I think, is the last time to a BC championship. So 14 years later, McNair's back. But maybe Richmond basketball is back a little bit. We got another team we're going to announce later. Last week we were talking about Palmer. This is good news for basketball in Richmond.
It is. It's a neat way to see how a team can be competitive at the 3A level as opposed to going up to 4A and trying to beat all the big teams and not having a chance to get there. The kids remain interested. Everyone is focused on a provincial championship goal. It's great to see that this move is helping Richmond basketball.
So there's our first quadrant. Abbotsford North Peace, 11:30 on there, March 12th. Wellington goes against McNair on the 1 o'clock game. Those games back to back. Then looking as we carry on, going to the bottom half of that side of the draw, we have St. Thomas More against Samuel Roberts Technical.
Samuel Robertson Technical, yeah, from Maple Ridge. St. Thomas More has been one of those teams that has really benefited, Chris, from this 3A move. They have found their perfect fit. Aaron Mitchell has worked so hard with that team. St. Thomas More hasn't won a BC title since 1975, 39 years ago. Rich Goulet actually coaching that team to a provincial championship way back when, but this St. Thomas More team's exciting. Reese Morris, 6'4", averaging 25 points a game, one of the best players in the entire province, regardless of tier. He's a superb player to watch, a senior, and really is going to be a bright spot for the St. Thomas More team, who go in, as one of the top teams, one of the top 4 teams in this tournament, finishing the season at number 2 in the rankings. So it's a real quality team.
And Samuel Roberts Technical, not a school with a huge basketball history, but they've had a pretty good war in Maple Ridge this year.
They have, and Maple Ridge has done very well, and Samuel Robertson, you like to see those rivalries developing at other tiers other than the top tier. And Samuel Robertson is a school that is really putting emphasis on its athletic program. You see them in soccer, see them in a number of other different sports, really kind of climbing the ladder here in terms of their competitive stature. So great to see them kind of making a push here in basketball as well.
All right, finishing off that quadrant, we have Sutherland from North Vancouver. They're going against Nanaimo.
And the Sutherland team as well. Love the sports culture at that school. Brad Thornhill, the head coach, telling me that the school is so pumped for this championship tournament because the Sutherland boys have been ranked in the top 5 the whole year. They sit at number 5 right now, heading into the Howe Sound champions. Their boys won the AAA soccer championship this year. So the male side of the senior varsity sports programs at Sutherland really climbing right now, the basketball team following suit.
Nice.
And I think it's going to be a really good game. Nanaimo, the Nanaimo District Islanders as well, a good history of competing at the lower tiers, and I think it'll be a good game. I think Sutherland, though, clearly the favorite here heading into this game.
You know, you love to see teams like Sutherland here. Those are the ones that bring out the buses, bring out the crowds for those opening day games. You know, those schools that haven't been here a lot. This is such a wonderful place to come. Langley Event Center. Bring all your students out. Such a great facility here too.
It is, and I like the Howe Sound playoff format as well. Limited amount of schools play that true double knockout tournament, and the whole area gets energized. I think when you have a double knockout tournament in your zone championship, the whole student body gets involved in it. When you do win it, I think it carries right through to the provincial championships, and that's why you see great support from the Howe Sound schools at the tournament.
You know, that's the North Shore history. You got to win to get in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Only one team's ever comes off the North Shore,
yeah.
And you know, in 3A it is Sutherland this year. So we're going to flip over. We're going to go to the other 8 and look at the other side of that draw. Our 2:45 game there on March 12th. We got Charles Tupper versus LV Rogers. There's been lots said about Charles Tupper this year. Pretty interesting story. Good basketball team.
Oh, great team, and great to see for Jeff Gorley, who works so hard on the east side to get his team to the point where, hey, they're competing for a provincial title. Charles Tupper goes into this thing as one of the top 4 favorites in this tournament, I would say, based on a number 3 seeding in the regular season. First time ever in school history winning that Lower Mainland Championship. Was a great win for them over the weekend. So Charles Tupper, 25-9 overall. They have been to the BCs 4 out of the last 5 years, but they've done it at the highest tier. This year now in 3A, a better fit for them, a chance to win the whole thing. And hey, we talked about Ron Ronquillo before,
yeah.
the guard who's the Lower Mainland MVP at the AAA tier. This kid is so exciting to watch. He shot 30. This team shoots almost 40% from 3 overall. I mean, they are just a great shooting team. They don't have a ton of size, but Ron Ronquillo and DJ Sug, I think it's pronounced, are the 2 guards on this team that really, they're exciting to watch. And if you're going to rank a team based on their entertainment value, Tupper is a 10. They're so fun to watch. They push the ball, they shoot the 3, they're so fun to watch.
And these teams like Charles Tupper, these Lower Mainland teams, they've played 3A, 4A teams, 2A teams throughout the year. They've played those tough basketball teams at all tiers.
Yeah,
they come in really well prepared, don't they?
They do. And Jeff Gorley, I mean, I went to see a number of their games this year, and it's part of their East Side Story series to really get basketball going. A lot of times they were playing the 4A teams. They want to keep that kind of rivalry going, that high competition throughout the entire season. Last time I saw Charles Tupper, they were playing Terry Fox, and Terry Fox at that time was one of the hottest teams in the province at 4A. So they've scheduled tough, and they're hoping it pays off this weekend, obviously.
All right, let's finish the rest of that bracket. We got Mark Isfeld from Courtenay going against Maple Ridge. Mark, Maple Ridge, well, they've been here a few times, haven't they?
They have. And a provincial championship winner in the past, Ken Dockendorf, one of the all-time great high school basketball coaches, and what a job he's done with this Maple Ridge team. They were 3rd in their league. And so you go into the numbers that you look at in the Fraser Valley AAA tournament, to come through from a 3rd place team in your league to finish 4th overall in the Fraser Valley AAA was a huge accomplishment for this team. They did a tremendous job in terms of, coming out of nowhere, basically. When that Fraser Valley tournament started, nobody thought Maple Ridge was making the BCs, and yet, here they are.
Is it a typical Dockendorf team? Will they have to hold teams to 35 to win a game?
I think we're going to get down. They will be the exact opposite of Tupper. So if Maple Ridge gets past and Tupper gets past, if that does happen, it'll be a contrast of styles.
Judging the over-under will be interesting for sure, won't it?
And we do want to talk about Mark Isfeld as well from Courtenay. A really kind of neat story there. Ranked in the top 10 all year. These guys were actually ranked number 1 for part of the year. So that's a real quality team. There were some battles at 3A, and number 1 went to a few teams over the course of the year. But Mark Isfeld, there's a couple of players who we should mention: Cole Hutchings, Morgan Proctor, Richard Gerard. That trio is averaging about 45 points a game. So they've got some quality guys there. And Maple Ridge will have to obviously get to hit the film room here and get ready to stop those 3 guys for this game.
And they've been ranked. I've seen them in your rankings throughout the year, haven't they?
The entire year.
Yeah.
So it's been a Mid-Island kind of real dominant program, and good to see Mark Isfeld, the Mighty Ice, making the
Isfeld Ice.
The Isfeld Ice making the BC Championship.
All right, we're going to look now at our final 4 teams here at the 3A tournament, March 12th to 15th, Langley Event Center. Fleetwood Park is going against, and we actually don't quite know who they're going against yet. I understand games going right now, Charles Hayes, Caledonia. They'll face one of those teams. But we know something about Fleetwood, don't we, for sure?
We do. We should say, though, that Charles Hayes and Caledonia have the 2 greatest high school nicknames in the province, because Charles Hayes, wisely, has gone back to Rainmakers.
Nice.
Because they did merge with Prince Rupert Secondary. They're all called the Charles Hayes Rainmakers. Of course, Caledonia are called the Kermodes. So those are 2 of the best nicknames in the province. If that counts for anything, Chris, they're going to need a lot.
We might be looking at a Kermodes Ice matchup at some point, right?
But Fleetwood Park has been tremendous. They were the preseason #1 out of Surrey, and Nick Day's done a great job with that program. Their 6th appearance in 13 years. So this Fleetwood Park program, even at the highest tier, the former 3A, has really been a competitive program out of Surrey. Played in the RCMP final, I believe, against Tomanowas, who are the #1 ranked team in 4A. It's a very good team. And the key here, deep rotation. They've got a 10-man rotation, and they've got some very, very quality players. Armin Kangura, Akash Graywall, and Amika Ukuma, the top 3 guys on this team. Fleetwood Park, a very, very dangerous team. And, they lost, in the Fraser Valley final to Abbotsford yesterday.
Yes.
So we know that they are a very, very good team.
And looking, our final 2 teams here is Vernon against McMath. McMath, another team who at the old 3A, they're a former Final 4 team here at the BC High School Championships. I think it was still back at the Agrodome days. They made Final 4. They're back at the provincials, and they go against Vernon. And both teams that have been in the conversation this year, actually.
Yeah, and we're going to get historical on me like that. You mentioned Josh Masters. We can say Kyle Watson, the McMath great.
Kyle Watson,
yeah,
right.
And we can say J.D. Jackson from Vernon in the past as well. So there's some names that we throw out, but it's going to be an interesting matchup, no question about it. I think, McMath is, as we talked about, Richmond basketball really benefiting from the neat environment there at 3A and the fact that they can compete very well at that level. So there's a kid named Anthony Dempch who's averaging over 17 a game for this McMath team. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. And Vernon, have really done a good job up in the Okanagan. And John Garvey, their leading scorer, has done a good job on that team. It's been over a decade since they've been in the provincials, though. So we'll see what happens here. Both teams have some history here at the tournament. So
let's bring the full draw up. Take one more look at this. You have on the one side you have Abbotsford, probably the team to beat. Abbotsford in this, you think?
I think so. I think, yeah, #1 most of the season.
Yeah, so you have Abbotsford, but Tupper's good, St. Thomas More, Fleetwood Park. Anybody else on that board that stands out to you?
Well, you know what? I think a team like Mark Isfeld could be a dangerous team.
Yeah.
Who knows, what we could get from a team like McNair with their really frenetic pace and their ability to score the basketball. I think they could be good too. And let's not forget Sutherland. Right there with that group in the top 5 overall. I think there's some good parity here, but I really think Fleetwood, Abbotsford, and Tupper, as well as St. Thomas More, are your 4 teams, and I think this draw really reflects well the strengths of 3A basketball this year in the province.
Okay, and so March 12th to 15th, 3A tournament. We're going to have 3A boys and 4A boys going on at the same time here, and people can go back and forth between games, find a game that you like, and you can watch a 3A game, watch a 4A game. Then on the Saturday, we're going to run them all here in the arena.
Yeah.
We've got both gyms running, but we got all the finals here in the arena. You can watch third place games back to back, and then you can stick around and you can watch the championship 3A boys, championship 4A boys. Before we leave the 3A though, I want to ask, are there some teams on here that can knock off 4A teams? Is the 4A a step up from the 3A, or is it a bit of a mix?
I think this year, for the large percentage, the 3A teams weren't able to get it done consistently against the best 4A teams.
Yeah.
But that's not to say there weren't victories, because there were plenty of them. And if you took the top 4 teams in this 3A draw here, I think they would do very well at the 4A level. There's no question.
Your
about
Abbotsfords, your Tuppers,
yeah.
they'd be in the mix,
and
right?
because they've made their mark against lower tiered 4A, ranked 4A teams this year. They've got their share of wins. There's no question. Tupper's done it. Fleetwood's done it. St. Thomas More has done it. Sutherland's done it. So yeah, you know what? This is a kind of a feeling out process over the next couple of years to see how these divisions settle, these different tiers. But I think right now it's a special time at 3A. These teams have all come together. Nobody really knows each other. There's no traditional rivalries. They're all going at each other for the first time.
Yes.
And that's why I find this 3A to be just a fascinating draw this year.
All right, so March 12th to 15th, we're just a week and a half away from these championships. Of course, we've got 1A and 2A this week for the boys, and we got 2A and 3A girls for this week, starting on March 5th here in Langley. So, but March 12th to 15th, the 3A and 4A championships. We've covered the 3A. You know, you can make sure that you follow on Twitter at BC 3A Boys B-Ball. Make sure that you follow at the Langley Event Center. They just do a phenomenal job here of keeping everyone up to date with what's going on. The live streams, all the games, the whole week. You know, that if you're here, that's great. But if you're not here, you can follow along. You can keep track of your favorite teams.
Yeah, everything is so centralized. If you love the game, take your 2 weeks off right now. Book those vacation days and just come here and watch this, because you can wander from court to court and just watch so many great players and games. It'll be just terrific.
You know, and a Dole Whip is really good for any meal of the day.
It does.
What I find.
It works for breakfast too.
It does. Yeah, well, you get one with the fruit, and then it's fine for breakfast. So there's our 3A draw. We're going to take a few minutes, and then we're going to come right back, and we're going to do the 4A draw. It's Howard Samura and I live here at the Langley Event Center. And we're back here, along with Howard Samur. We're going to switch gears now. We've covered the 3A tournament. We're going to turn our attention to the 4A tournament coming up here, Langley Event Center, just a week and a half away. When you look at the 4As, we got some of the traditional powers, and we got some teams haven't been here before.
Yeah, there's some real Cinderella stories that we're going to talk about as we go through the draw today, Chris. But Fraser Valley strength, I think, really showing this season. We have top candidates from the Lower Mainland, just not in the numbers and the depth of quality teams as we've seen in past years. But the Fraser Valley, wow, even with the switch to 4A, just incredibly deep. And when I look at the quality of teams that didn't make it here from the Fraser Valley, I think that's one of the kind of news flashes on this whole thing, is there's a ton of good teams from the Fraser Valley that didn't get in with the 6th berth.
All right, well, let's go right to that draw. Well, let's bring up the board on the screen. We're going to look at our, start right off with our number 1 seed, Timanowas. Number 1 seed, and they'll go up on that March 12th, and first day, they'll go up against Mount Baker.
Yeah, and Timanowas has been so good. 25 straight victories.
They're on a roll right now.
They are on a roll. They lost to Linden, Washington in mid-December, haven't lost since, Chris, and they've just been an incredible team, winning the Fraser Valley Championship yesterday over Glen Eagle in overtime. And Sukhjot Bains, the forward, is the guy that everyone in the province is talking about right now. This kid has scored 30 plus. Boy, I'll tell you, in about the last, 30 plus in I think 23 of the last 30 games he's played, he's so consistent. And you look at the wingspan as we see him here on the screen, his ability to get to the hole, just an incredible player. Division I schools looking at him, and he's just a superb talent, averaging 28.5 points, 13.6 rebounds, and almost 4 assists a game. This kid's the real deal. And many people think he might be the best player in the province this year.
Timanowas looking for a breakthrough this year, aren't they?
They are. They certainly are. I mean, getting there last year with a largely grade 11 core of players, and they found out how tough it was to battle under the bright lights. And I think coming back as a preseason number 1, they learned their lessons in the offseason. They've showed much more composure and consistency. Parm Baines, the point guard, hits the big 3 to send them to overtime yesterday. Sukhman Sandhu is a guy with a lot of length in the front court for this Timanowas team. They can grind it out. They can play high tempo. Whatever you need to do, this team right now seems to be on a roll, the hottest team.
And we've seen Mount Baker here. They're here fairly consistently at the championships. And some years, you get a pretty interesting game on that first day out of Mount Baker. We just always don't quite know because they haven't been as tested as many of the other schools here at the championships.
Yeah, and they'll come in with nothing to lose. They'll throw everything to the wind and just go for it. Certainly Timanowas is a massive favorite here against Mount Baker, but boy, I'll tell you, the Mount Baker kids put in a lot of time and effort during the course of their season to get their games and make sure they're ready to represent here at the province at the provincial tournament. So we'll see what happens there.
So that's actually the 8 p.m. game, March 12th on the Wednesday, first night. That's actually the last game of the night, the first game, though, that we're talking about. Now let's finish off that first quadrant and look at our other games, sort of the 8-9 seeds. We got Claremont, Burnaby South.
Yeah, Claremont, the Vancouver Island champions, are a real quality team, have been kind of slid out of the top 10 towards the end of the season, Chris, but they're from the majority of the season, mid-table to the bottom reaches of the top 10. So quality provincial ranked program. Alex Jordash, I think people really enjoy watching this kid play. 6'4" guard forward, 17.8 rebounds a game. So a guy who's doing a real good job. Their grade 12 core, all 5 of them played in the 2012 junior varsity provincial final. So that counts for something, I think, in terms of their ability to be used to high pressure situations. And Burnaby South, the team we'll talk about next that they're playing, fits the same description. Quality team right through their junior careers, and Jermaine Haley has been a very exciting player to watch. People are talking about him as being one of the more talented players in the province. So unselfish, height at the point guard spot, as you'll see here. Jermaine Haley is unselfish to a fault. I mean, he loves to pass the ball when the opportunity is there to take that shot. Look how smooth the three-point shot looked there. Yeah, Jermaine Haley, a real quality player.
All right, so that's our first quadrant. You got to see Timanowas, coming out of that 4, you'd think?
Well, just based on 25 straight wins and the consistency they've shown, the ability to win in so many different ways, certainly not a slate at the other 3 teams. They're going to have to play their best game if they come up against Timanowas in that quadrant.
All right, so the 4A BC High School Boys Championships, presented by TELUS, March 12th to 15th. That's our first group of 4. Now we're going to head down to the rest of that draw. And it gets interesting in our next game.
Can we stay here for the next half hour and talk about this next game?
Wow, this next game will be, and it's actually the first game of the day, 8:30 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
First game of the tournament. If there's one game on the first day, I know, all these teams, it's a big deal getting here. But if there's one that the casual basketball fan, would want to see, I'm thinking it's this game.
It is this game.
Walnut Grove against Queen Charlotte.
Yeah.
Where are you going to start? We'll start with Walnut Grove.
Yeah. Well, we'll start with Walnut Grove, and what a quality program. already 2 straight appearances in the provincial final, won it all last year.
Yeah.
And we talk about a great player, Jaden Cohey. I don't know, you run out of superlatives when you talk about Jaden Cohey. He's just the most complete guard I've seen in such a long time. He does so many things, and he's so team first. I just love this kid's kind of mindset in terms of being a basketball player. He just overflows with the intangibles, has what it takes to get the job done. This season, Chris, his supporting cast, not what it's been in the past couple of years. Yet here's Walnut Grove with their 3rd place finish in the Fraser Valley in a stacked Fraser Valley year. So very great season for Jaden Cohey.
And, so our defending champions go against Cinderella, potential Cinderella team. The Hoosiers of British Columbia. You had a wonderful story on it. Many people knew about it, but after your story, that story spread like wildfire, I know, through social media. The most shared story I've seen all year in high school basketball. Walnut Grove going against Queen Charlotte. Talk about them.
Yeah, the Queen Charlotte Saints, what an interesting team. And I think the thing to mention here is these guys could have played single A, and they might have been the smallest school in single A. But their decision to play 4A, it's an automatic berth to the BCs as the only team from their zone. And the difficulty in getting games, they played, I believe, in 3 tournaments, but raising money just to travel off the Charlotte's Haida Gwaii to get to games was a challenge. And this team beat Vancouver College by, I believe it was 27 points at Vancouver College this year. So they've done a terrific job. That we got to mention their guys. Nate Vogstad's the 6'1" guard, provincial team kid, 29 points per game. He was the MVP of the under-22 division at the All-Native tournament. And he's a grade 12 kid. So he's playing against grown men.
Yes.
And he's just such a tough-minded individual. I can't wait to get a chance to see him play over multiple days. Duncan Rumack is their point guard. He's averaging 19 a game. And Jussie Barnes is a grade 11 kid, 6'7", small forward, averaging 19 points. This kid has 5 triple-doubles in 14 games this year. So little Oscar Robertson kind of stuff heading into this BC Championship game. The Queen Charlotte Saints, I love this. The Hoosiers of the tournament, and you know what? No games towards the end. They played men's teams for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and they're in the midst of a 3-week training camp as they get ready for the provincials, playing men's teams, training in the mountains, running on the beach in the morning on Haida Gwaii.
This is a movie.
Does it get any better?
Doesn't get any better than this.
It's amazing. I
wow.
can't wait.
A great first game on the first day. Queen Charlotte's going against Walnut Grove. And the thing about Queen Charlotte is the word is they think they can win.
I love it. Bring it on. It's terrific. And that's the mindset you want. I think when they come here, you'll see how tough-minded this group is. But wow, what a game to get to open it, playing the provincial champions in their first game.
All right, not to be outdone, though. We got another 2 in this bracket. We got Winston Churchill going against West Vancouver.
And wow, first off, plaudits to West Vancouver, the junior boys champions, and then getting through the house down tournament for the senior boys. We talked about Plaid.
Absolutely. I'm a little, again, a little invested in the West Vancouver. 25th time they're going to be at the championships. Last year in 2007, have a rich history, have a BC championships. Got to go back a few years, but West Vancouver has a BC championships. Their junior boys team was expected to be good, not great. Went on a run, won those championships yesterday. Went with a 3-point win in the finals of the BC junior boys. I'm sure the senior boys are looking to do that. They House Sound championships last week, lose the first night. Kind of thought, well, that will be it. House Sound double knockout.
Yeah, tough.
Run off 4 straight, and here they are.
Yeah, with one loss under your belt, trying to win that thing is tough. You're right. I'm hearing that the junior boys wore the all plaid shorts. I'm not sure the senior boys are wearing the all plaid. I saw them at the North Shore Invitational.
Yes.
I don't think they were in full. I think really they need to feed off that junior boys karma. They need to wear the junior boys shorts for this tournament.
I know I have Principal Rao on speed dial, and I will be talking to him to make sure that they're in full plaid when they show up here on March 12th.
But that's a good team they're playing. Let's not forget about Sir Winston Churchill, ranked number 1 for a week, first time in school history that they've been ranked number 1 at the highest tier. It happened for them this year. The only reason they're the number 2 ranking was because they lost to Tamanois for the second time at a tournament earlier in the year. This team is loaded. They were, I don't want to call it an upset because they lost to a very quality opposition, but they did not win the Lower Mainland Championship, and it's kind of hurt where they're placed in the draw here. But Winston Churchill, Mindy Minhas, a kid that we've talked about forever, it seems.
Yes.
Just a super talented kid who can just play all over the floor. Just has so many different kinds of skills. Can pass it, drive it, can do everything. He's a guard in a power forward's body, and that is a real enticing combination. See the steal by Mindy and getting down the floor here against Findlay Prep earlier in the season. He's a very, very complete player for Winston Churchill. His brother Gary as well, a quality player. Jason Clark, the senior guard on this team is a real tough-minded kid who keeps everybody in line. Winston Churchill, I still think one of the favorites to win this tournament.
Boy, isn't that a tough quadrant, though? You know, well, you got Walnut Grove, defending champs. You have against Queen Charlotte, who is. We're not quite sure what we're getting, but we're after that win over Vancouver College, people are thinking that it could be something special.
Yeah.
And then you got Winston Churchill, former #1 ranked team this year, all in that same bracket.
Yeah, and you've got Tamanawis on the other side of the draw too, which makes it even a real tough side of the draw. It's going to be a fun. I mean, we love the tournament every year, but this draw here really builds the excitement on this half of the draw.
All right, let's go to the other half now. We'll start in that top quadrant, and. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, is that what we got in the first team? Glen Eagles going against Prince George. What's up with Glen Eagles?
Well, Glen Eagle again, here's a team that was one of the, I believe, 3 or 4 teams in Quad A that shared some time at #1 in the rankings. And Glen Eagle can beat anybody in the province on any day. They can also lose to anybody. I think they've become way more consistent this year as they've settled their lineup. But Glen Eagle, when they're on, are so dangerous. And they pushed Tamanawis in that Fraser Valley final. I believe they had a 7-point lead with about 3 minutes left in that basketball game yesterday at one stage, a pretty fair lead. Just a super talented group overall. And you really love Denver Sparks Guest is a kind of like a tight end, power forward combo guy who can do everything, going to play at Simon Fraser next year. Love the game of Denver Sparks Guest and Tariq Scott, the guard. Cordell Parker, another guard. Very quality kid. Brandon, I'm losing track of my names here, but just really a deep team overall, just really deep overall. And Denver Sparks Guest, when he's on, really bridges the gap between the front court and the back court. He's one of those guys that can just put a team on his back when he's on as well. Just a really great player. You should also mention Grant Galbraith, their big guy down low, a good player as well. So
Glen Eagles, coming in, #2 in the tournament. The team, probably on this side of the draw to watch. They're going to be, they're going to be tough going against Prince George. And then the rest of that quadrant, Sardis versus Kelowna. Yeah, Sardis is a team that we hadn't heard anything from until last season. And they really came on with a largely grade 11 core. And the grade 11s have really shown promise. I mean, they've matured as seniors, and they're one of the top teams in the province. Sardis, if you look at that quadrant, Chris, I wouldn't be surprised if they won that quadrant. Oh, really? I mean, they could beat Glen Eagle just like Glen Eagle could beat Sardis. I mean, Sardis is a real quality team, and I really love the mental toughness of their guys. Hayden Lejeune, the big guy up front, is very impressive, as is Cam Servatius and Eric Rogers. This is a really good basketball team. But let's not forget about Kelowna, too. That Kelowna team, has played a high-caliber schedule, and they must have made 5 trips down to the mainland to play in high-caliber tournaments. And they took their lumps in a lot of those tournaments, but I think it's really helped them. They've hunkered down in Kelowna and have really gotten into playing team basketball. Buzz Truss is a tremendous basketball player, and Kelowna will give Sardis all they can handle. I mean, that group there between Glen Eagle, Sardis, and Kelowna is a terrific. Well, and Kelowna always that first week of February, their Western Canadian Championships. Yeah. You're always well tested. Those are the best teams from from Saskatchewan, Manitoba West are all there. They come in well tested as they come into the tournament. And Kelowna really did a good job at their own tournament. I mean, they beat Walnut Grove, I believe, in the semifinal, went right to the final, and lost to Holy Cross. So they are showing themselves. At least it was on their home court up in Kelowna, but are showing that they've got what it takes in the big games to play against the top, upper echelon Quad A ranked teams. They will be looking to channel Al Lalonde and the others from the mid-1980s, and when they come here next week, or in just over a week, to the BC Championships. So let's go to our final quadrant, and the most storied team in the championships. 48 times they've been here. Vancouver College, and they go against Pitt Meadows. There's another team also. They're talking about 2 teams with some history in that first going on day 1. Vancouver College, Pitt Meadows. That sounds like a Final Four matchup. It really doesn't. It's been a Final Four matchup. Absolutely. You're right, in many years, and that is a terrific matchup. And really, when you look at the coaches going against each other and the matchups and the possibilities of Lloyd Scrub against Rich Goulet, that's what I love about that basketball game. And you're going to see 2 incredible players: Elijah Campbell-Action, a 6'2" guard from Vancouver College, and Graham Smith, the grade 11 scoring machine for Pitt Meadows, who probably averages like 30 points a game. He gets quadruple teamed in games because Pitt doesn't have as many secondary scorers as Coach Goulet would probably like to have. But that's going to be a fantastic basketball game. And when you look at that, they've got it seeded as a 3-14 game, and they have to because Vancouver College won the Lower Mainland Championships, and the Fraser Valley was such a death trap in terms of the quality and the depth
but that is no 3-14 game. That's a terrific basketball game on the opening game of the tournament.
2 nights ago, Pitt Meadows was lucky to survive against Heritage Woods.
They were.
To even make it here, weren't they?
Exactly.
They just made it out there. And Vancouver College, haven't heard as much from them during the year as we sometimes do. They've typically been a sort of top 5, top 10 team. Haven't seen them as much in the rankings, not as much. What's the story? Have they come together late?
They're almost exclusively grade 11s. They don't have a lot of height, but they bought into Coach Scrubb's team philosophy. They start out 7-10. It losses to like Queen Charlotte, we talked about. They lost to St. Michael's, a AA school on the island. They're quality teams, but in the past, you would think with Vancouver College's pedigree, they would win those games. They start off 7-10. They finish 11-1. And in that 11-1 run, the only loss coming in the Emerald Final to Terry Fox, who is the big surprise not being here in this tournament. But Vancouver College got hot at the right time, and you talk about peaking at the right time. Nobody is peaking at the right time like Vancouver College is right now, Chris.
All right, our final 2 teams, Holy Cross, Cowichan.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Cowichan, the Vancouver Island runner-up, did not get a chance to see the squad from Duncan this year. Holy Cross, though, making the move, from the second highest tier to the top tier.
Yes.
So they go from 2A to the new 4A this season, and it's been a big success. Matt Lachasser's team is physical, athletic, whatever you want to say about what makes a good basketball team. Holy Cross has the components there. Taylor Brown, a great guard. Matabuke, one of the forwards, does a great job there. Jonathan Kongbo can be a physical guy, and he can really dominate down low as well. But they've got multi-skills on that team, and I think it's a really, really dangerous team. You look at the top 4 teams in this tournament, Holy Cross has got to be one of them right now. Very, very exciting basketball team to watch.
So there we have the full draw. What do you see? What do you see? When you look at that, Timanowis, who else?
Well, I think Timanowis, comes in as the favorite, and I think when you go through the Fraser Valley and win 25 straight games, you've earned that right, and win in overtime in the Fraser Valley Championship game. But there's so many competitors. I think Glen Eagle is great. I think Sardis has a really good shot at this thing. Who knows what Vancouver College can do, and who knows what Pitt Meadows can do? They've had their runs this year where they've looked like one of the top 5 teams in the province on that side of the draw. Walnut Grove, respect until they lose. They are the defending champions. And Jaden Cohey really knows how to run a basketball team. At the same time, Churchill is so deep in that same quadrant. They could be the winner. Timanowis, we've talked about, right? Burnaby South, a super young team. But they've got so many big inside guys, quality guard play. And, of course, Jermaine Haley, we've talked about as being one of the best in the province. So people would come up to me over the course of the year and kind of give you the nudge and say, hey, I really think there's a dozen teams that can win this thing. When it gets down to actually staring at this draw, I would say there's 7 or 8 teams in this draw, and that's half the draw, that could win this tournament, depending on what happens.
Again, a very strong Fraser Valley, though, isn't it? You look, Fraser Valley and Lower Mainland, 2 largest zones. Probably this year tilts Fraser Valley in terms of a little bit stronger teams.
Oh, it's huge in terms of Fraser Valley, because I think when you look, and this is no disrespect to the Lower Mainland teams that didn't get into this draw, Chris, but if you look at the Lower Mainland teams that didn't get in, say the first 3 that didn't get in, and then look at the first 7 or 8 from the Fraser Valley that didn't get in, the quality is overwhelmingly in favor of the Fraser Valley. There's a ton of good teams that didn't get in here. We're talking about Heritage Woods, Terry Fox, we're talking about Yale, MEI, Lord Tweedsmuir. These teams have been honorable mention or top 10 ranked teams all season long, and they're not even at this tournament. That's how tough it was to get through the Valley this year.
All right, let's put this all in perspective one more time. So we're done the junior boys and junior girls here at Langley Event Center. Congratulations again, West Vancouver Highlanders, junior boys champions, junior girls champions, Riverside Rapids.
Congratulations.
Both those teams are those are done last night. Now we've got this week coming up. We've got 1A boys, we've got 2A boys, we've got 2A girls, and we've got 3A girls. A great place to be this week, watching high school basketball. 4 of these championships going on, 64 teams working here through the arena, through the center court, through the other courts all over Langley Event Center. So we have these 64 this week, and that wraps up on Saturday night with championships. And I think you can actually get to all 4 in a row. And then if you don't make it there, you can get them in your paper Sunday morning, because we know you'll be at all 4. You'll be at all 4 championship games. And then we start off with our 3A and 4A boys, March 12th to 15th. Here we've got both tournaments running side by side, so 32 teams. And again, you'll be able to catch you can go back and forth to catch the games you want to catch. This is a great place to come and hang out for a day, isn't it?
It is. This is a new era. You hate to kind of, get too, trying to paint too big a picture or make it more than it isn't. This is huge in terms of the step forward for all levels of basketball in this province. And the Langley Event Center just I just got to applaud their desire to bring everything together here. It's a central meeting point for high school basketball, and I think there's a new era starting here with this week of junior followed by the 2 weeks of senior varsity, all in the same building. It's tremendous.
The BC March Madness,
It
right?
is. It
truly
truly is.
right? And
Yeah.
so March 12th to 15th, championships for 3A and 4A boys. Make sure you follow on Twitter at BC 3A Boys B-Ball and at BC 4A Boys B-Ball. Langley Event Center website is going to have all the information you need, live streams of all the games. But get here and watch and check out the very best in high school sports. We look forward to seeing you here, and we wish all the teams the best of luck.
You bet. It's going to be a great few weeks.
Give me a star to reach for, tell me what it takes, and I'll go so high, my feet won't touch the ground, it's itch my wings and pull the strings, I bought these strings that all fall down.
Ventura scores on the floor, the 3 ball. He will hit it! 3.3 seconds left in the game. Out for 3, and he got it! 0.9 seconds on the clock! What the South Cam Titans have repeated as BC Senior Girls AAA Basketball Championship.
Cohe with a spin move right up